telephone bills mentioned here also. If you're using the services of a laundromat, that's also a service. That's true. So if you're going to a sort of self-serve laundromat and putting your coins in, you're not using some person's services in the sense they're not serving you by doing your laundry for you, but you are renting the services of the equipment that are being provided for you. So that's still a service even if there's not a person involved. Food and services are examples, are sort of the main categories of what economists call non-durables. So meaning that they don't stick around. Once if you go buy a donut and eat it, it's essentially gone. It's a flow. It flows through your life, if you like, rather than sticking around. That's different than if you go buy a car, for example. So a car is an example of a durable good because you don't use it and it goes away. You still have a car after you've driven around some. Okay. So there's other non-durables you should keep track of. Tobacco, if any of you smoke. Various drugs, illicit or illicit. Newspapers we regard as a service usually, because usually yesterday's news is not very valuable. Things like toothpaste, again, you're not going to have it more than a few weeks probably. We'll regard that as a non-durable as opposed to something you're going to keep on your shelf for indefinitely. So in contrast to non-durables, so things like food and services and these kinds of things, we have durables. So what's interesting about durables, or the sort of characteristic we care about for durables, is that they're things that provide either services or some kind of store of value. That's what durables do. So here's an example of durables. So textbooks. If you invest in one of these economics textbooks this semester, you'll get some services from that durable. You'll go and pay your $200 for Nicholson's textbook, for example, and you'll dutifully read it every week when I give you assignments. And at the end of the semester, you'll still have the textbook. It's durable. It's giving you services over the course of the semester. And if you wish, you can resell it into the used textbook market at the end. So will it serve two roles? First of all, the textbook will have given you a flow of services. Second of all, it will have some value at the end. It might even go up in value. Who knows? Not very likely, but it could. So that's a characteristic of the durable. It can be a store of value. It may yield services, and it sort of sticks around for some non-trivial period of time. And durables are closely related to investments. And in fact, it may sometimes be difficult to distinguish between these things. But when you're going through and doing your expenditures, there's a lot of different kinds of investments. There's some things we all think of as investments. So if you take some money and put it in a savings account, or buy some shares in a mutual fund, or buy an ounce of gold, those are all essentially financial investments. Okay, so those are kind of obvious. There are others too, and here we've got our economist hats firmly on. Gifts you make to other people maybe should be regarded as an investment. Any thoughts as to why? Yes. Okay. What's your name? So Pune observes that a gift may serve as a sort of investment because it may yield a flow of services in the future, because the person to whom you may give a gift may reciprocate at some point in the future. And notice they don't even have to reciprocate. There just has to be some possibility that they will in the future for that to be an investment that has some value. Yes? So the question is, if somebody else gives you a gift or buys a textbook for you, is that an expenditure for you? And the answer I would say is no. So that looks more like some kind of income that you've received. So let's keep the sort of income side of the balance sheet separate from the expenditure side. Yes? Okay, so the financial aid is income. So I don't want to hear anything about that. The issue about room and board, I need to make a decision about. I think what I should do is, I need to understand better how that works. What I think happens is financial aid, or you or your parents, put some money into an account, and then you can draw on that, and that covers your rent for your dorm room or whatever, and gives you some credits you can use to spend on food and possibly some other things. Okay. And is the conversion rate between the points and dollars known and obvious? What is the rate? It's 1 to 1. Okay. It's not. Okay, yeah, okay, so good point. All right, so with that information, I'm prepared to make a decision about this point. So let's go ahead and treat the expenditures in the dining halls or whatever as expenditures, and not the initial payment into the account for room and board. There's a partial exception to that, which is that I would like to see, if it happens during this month, if your money's going into that account to pay for your dorm room, then that's an expense. What should it be? Is that a food or a service or a durable or a non-durable? What's the investment? Yeah, I'd call that a service. You're basically renting the room, and you're getting housing services. I think even the department's called Department of Housing Services. Is that right? Something like that. So yeah, you're getting services from the room rental. What if you bought an apartment building or an apartment? Yeah, so if you're renting it, it's a service. If you're buying it, then that's an investment, or a durable. You can call it either one. That's yielding service. If you live there, it's going to yield services to you, right? Because you get to live there, and it has value later on. You can resell it if you wish. Okay. Yes.
Part of the financial aid, the way that I'm going to calculate it is that financial aid part of that is grants, and that's money that the free money the university got, and part of that is loans. That's the part that you're actually paying. So it's really like 2 tiers. So part actually getting.
So okay, that's a good. So Pune asks a good question, which is she's going to get some money that she can spend this semester on things like room and board or other stuff. It's going to come in 2 different pieces. One is going to be some income, a grant, a scholarship or something. Another piece is going to be a student loan. And she's wondering if she should treat those 2 things differently. I'm going to say no, you shouldn't. That stuff's going to go. That, again, it has influence on your wealth. If you were to construct a balance sheet, that would show up differently. But it's not going to affect your expenditures. When you go out and buy a cup of coffee, whether the dollar you're spending with is coming from a loan or coming from income, is sort of immaterial for that part of the financial calculation. Yes. Good question. So that's a great question. So if you go buy a car, it's pretty clear you're making a durable investment that yields services. If you've purchased a car and taken a loan to finance it, how should you treat that? I'm going to say that what you should do in that case is to treat those things separately. I mean, really, as you bought a car, you own it. You've also taken a loan. You're making payments on it. So the expenditures you have are an investment. Those car payments are you reducing the debt you own to GMAC or whoever financed the loan. And you also bought a car. So those are two distinct things. So if you buy a car, take a loan to pay for it, you made a durable investment when you bought the car and paid your $20,000 or whatever. And when you make your monthly payments on the loan, that's another purely financial investment that reduces your debt.
And then my other question is, I'm in a family of 4. Should I quarter everything?
I would say that to the extent possible, you should. Well, let's see. So you all live together in the same household, and you have you pool your income and resources. Yes, do it for the household. Do the whole household. Yep. Don't divide it 4. Just do the whole household. Okay, good. what we'll do, we'll come back to this later. What we're going to do, something we're going to do by way of analysis is to look at things like the amount of your food expenditures compared to your total expenditures. So in your case, you'll have a bigger numerator because there's 4 of you, but also a bigger denominator. Yeah. Okay. All right. Other questions about the expenditure diary? Okay, this is great. Let's move along. Something I want to say, this is actually really important. We're going to collect these data from you later on, and the thing here has a form, and you can use that, or you can use it as an example. It might be more convenient for you to keep this in electronic form for some of you, or you might just like my organization. What I'm going to ask from you at the end is a sort of summary of your categories, and whatever is the easiest way for you to produce that is fine. Now, your response, I'm going to collect this data from you. Don't put your name on it. Your expenditures are your business and not mine. If you are going out and spending a lot of money on weed or a variety of other things you might not want me to know about, please record it, but don't put your name, okay? And, that's blatant of the expenditures, but how you're spending your money this is anonymous and private. This is a totally confidential thing, okay? Let's see. Yeah.
So you're not looking for line items,
Well, if you, see, I can't, I may ask you to turn, if you can, so I think I've had, I may ask you to turn that in. I don't have a good way to use that yet because it's too hard to do the data entry. There's too much variation across students. So I think I won't ask you to supply the lower levels of microdata. Yeah. Okay. Other questions about that? Okay. All right. Okay, so I want to take just a few minutes to, by way of motivating the course. I'm going to stop before the hour and a half is up because I'd like to do 2 things. I'd like you to fill out the questionnaire we passed around. I'm also going to surprise you with a quiz. So we'll give you a few minutes to work on that. So I'm going to move through the motivation here quickly. Okay, so what's economics? I have 3 possible answers here. Any of you who've had an intro micro class, and that's probably, who has not had a sort of E1 or intro microeconomics class? Sorry? Have not had. Okay. All right, this slide is for you. The standard textbook definition of economics is that it's the study of the allocation of scarce resources to competing ends. Resources, the term resources here right now is one that economists construe broadly. So it certainly includes things like natural resources, trees, water, clean air, those sorts of things. It also includes anything else that has value that people might want to use for something. Now, the ones we care about are scarce resources. So there may be some resources which people like, but which aren't in any kind of scarce demand. Not occurring to me off the top of my head. If those exist, they're sort of outside the purview of economics. I guess like the real numbers are an example of a resource that's not in scarce demand. We can only use the real numbers. Okay. The scarce resources the scarcity is a consequence of people wanting more of these resources. The scarcity derives from people's demand to use these resources, whatever they are. So that's the textbook definition. Another sort of broad definition, which I like, is that economics is really just the study of how people make decisions. Actually, it could be broader than that. Economists sometimes study how animals make decisions. But anyway, so the study of decision making and social behavior. And something that we're sort of that's going to be of central interest in this class, and is of central interest in microeconomics broadly, is thinking about how an individual, in trying to solve the problem they face of how to allocate their own resources, how much money to spend on this, how much to produce, how much those individual decisions interact with the decisions of others, faced in similar kinds of circumstances, to yield social outcomes that are sort of interesting in the aggregate. This is a broad definition of economics, which is also useful. And then finally, there's a flip answer, which is nonetheless quite accurate. Economics is what economists do. Okay, so what do economists do? It's also sort of traditional to divide that up into 2 big categories. So the first category is that economists conduct what's called positive economics. Now, positive economics is all about trying to understand the world the way that it is. And so the specifics, it's trying to understand how stuff works, not necessarily not trying to change it. So what do economists do specifically? Well, we spend time building models that we think will help us to understand and predict how people or how groups of people are going to behave. So we write down models, we generate hypotheses from those models about behavior that we can then compare with data, use the predictions from those models to compare with data and see how our models do. So we'd like to construct models, we'd like to be able to test them. So this class is going to be mostly about the first. This is going to be a class about building economic models to explain behavior. We'll talk a little bit about developing predictions that we can test from those models, but not very much. The class that's going to do that a lot, which I hope all of you can take, I think it's a very valuable class, is EP118, is a course in econometrics that we offer. There are other courses in econometrics on campus also. But econometrics is all about confronting the predictions models with data, trying to estimate stuff about people's preferences and technology and so on, and then testing those models. And then the third thing that economists do is we conduct experiments. We do this maybe a little bit less than we do the other 2 things, but another way to test models is to try to get some randomization, have some treatments and controls, see how people react, and try to use that to develop our understanding of human behavior. And that's sort of, in the last decade or 2, experimental methods have really become very important in economics, where they weren't so much before that. Okay, so that's positive economics. Let's try and understand how people behave. Okay, there's another sort of side to normative economics, and we'll mostly be positive economists in this class, but occasionally we'll be normative. So normative economics tries to say how people should behave. And so this is the branch of economics, or when we use our economics tools to try to describe what policies ought to be, for example, where we have our normative hats on. So what do we do? How do we use economics to do this? Well, having been positive economists and constructed models and tested them, we then turn around and try to use those models, the ones that we've built and tested, and we try to use the best models we've got to make predictions about how, in the real world, outcomes are going to depend on the policies that are implemented, for example, or something like that. So if you wanted to know, if you wanted to advocate for a policy of increased gasoline tax, for example, to reduce greenhouse emissions, an economist would go about that exercise by coming up with a model that has some sort of empirical validity and trying to use a prediction about how greenhouse gas emissions would respond to changes in the tax rate. So without necessarily trying to implement those things, and then you'd say something about, okay, the tax rate ought to be this many dollars per gallon. So that would be a normative exercise. Okay, and then broadly, we can say not just greenhouse gases. We economists, despite our reputation as being hard-headed, sort of green eye shade types, ultimately care about people's happiness or welfare, if you prefer. And so any of these policy exercises tend to revolve around economists' estimation of how happy people are going to be under different kinds of policies. And so we'll talk quite a bit about that, in fact. Okay, so that's what economists do. All right. So I became an economist because I was really interested in social behavior. I wanted to be able to write down models of and sort of understand how societies work. Other people have different motivations. And of course, there are other social sciences. So I'm going to take a moment to compare economics in a couple ways to some of those other social sciences. So what are the differences? Well, the first difference, and sort of a really germane one, is mainly that compared to other fields like sociology, political science to a lesser extent, history certainly, anthropology, a big difference is that economics is more formal. We write down mathematical models that we think help us to understand how people behave. We try to test those models. So that's not to say there's value in more qualitative kinds of exercises and learning, but that's mostly not what economists do. So we're quantitative, we're formal. We're empirical. We test these models. Okay, and there's another difference also, a practical one, which is that economists make more money than anthropologists or political scientists or sociologists as a rule. We like to think that's because what we do is more valuable. Okay, so I'm going to sort of close a little bit with some discussion of the aims of the course. So this is going to be a pretty rigorous course. It's going to be mathematical. A lot of people find it demanding, and I hope you'll learn a lot. What I want to do is to make all of you competent microeconomists. I want to be in a position where if you want to pursue the further study of economics, you know what you need to know in order to sort of think about applying for graduate school or to go out and do real applied work with your bachelor's degree in a consulting firm or something like this. I want to give you real tools that are really useful for solving real-world problems. Now, I haven't talked very much about the environmental and resource part of this course. I've said just economics. So let me talk about that for just a moment. So this is the title of this course is Environmental Economics and Policy 100. Environmental and resource economics are fields in which economics is extremely important, and they're fields in which they're really interested in important economic problems. Nevertheless, there's not like a separate economics for environmental problems and a separate economics for some other sphere of knowledge. There's one sort of study of microeconomics, and there's applications to environmental problems or resource problems, and some other stuff we'll talk about during the course. So they're not distinct disciplines. The models you're going to learn in this class are going to be applicable to environmental problems. They'd also be applicable to problems in finance or consumer behavior, marketing, a whole list of other fields, because economists use the same models sort of across a broad range of applications. So we're going to be focused as a tools class. We're going to have examples that have to do with environmental stuff, but we're really going to be focused on learning to use the basic tools of microeconomics. That's what this course is about. Okay. Here's the other thing that makes this course special and different from just a intermediate micro course more broadly. Most of you are here not just because you're interested in economics, but because you're also interested in environmental problems. And that's great, because I think that collectively, as a society, some of the most important problems we face are essentially environmental problems. Now, what I expect is that you're going to learn a lot in this course, and what I hope is that you're going to go on and solve those problems. And what I want to do is to make sure that you are competent to do so. So it's not going to be an easy course. Okay, so what does competence depend on? You need to be able to use the tools of microeconomics, and I'm going to work pretty hard to instill this in you. You're going to need to learn some math if you don't already have those skills. And I think you'll find, I sort of said this earlier, if your recollection of calculus is hazy, that's not necessarily a bar. You can probably pick up the tools you need pretty quickly if you apply yourself in the first few weeks of this course. So you shouldn't be intimidated by the material, but you should take it seriously because you really do need to learn it. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to surprise you now with the quiz I alluded to earlier. This, again, is just, like problem set 1, is a bunch of dumb math exercises. So what I'd like you to do is two things. Go ahead and take this quiz. Some of you may look at this and say, oh my God, I can't remember how to do any of this stuff. That's okay. Do what you can. This is not, I'm not grading this quiz. I'm going to use this to evaluate how well you know this material. So don't be shy about performing poorly on it. Here's the other thing. Some of you will look at this and say, my God, I can't remember any of this stuff. Okay, again, don't freak out too much. Some of you may look at it and say, oh, this is a piece of cake, and zip right through it. If you zip right through this and turn it in to Jeff before you leave, don't bother to do problem set 1, because it's the same kind of material. If you can do the quiz and feel comfortable with the material, there's no need to waste your time on the problem set. We'll just give you whatever score you get on the quiz for the problem set, and that'll be that. Okay, there must be demand for more quizzes back there, though.